Hi, my name is Olawa, as you may or may not know, and today, as you can tell by the title of this video, we are going to be discussing the Gen Z, the economy, and surely the political administration of Nigeria, because of course it is very partial to this whole discussion. And soon I'm gonna add a clip to this video which may not have like a very big importance to this old video, but trust me, it did play a part in the progression of this video. And I'm very certain a lot of Nigerians must have seen the video, but trust me, I'm not gonna generalize, trust me. So let's take some moment to watch the video. Yeah.
But my original question was like, so for if people want to leave America and like try to find those
Leave America and go where?
back home,
Let's be honest. Go back where? It's not cool back home.
it's not.
My country now is in the economy now is in shambles. Be Nigerians, you know what I'm saying? Like now the exchange rate is messed up. A lot of stuff not going well. The economy is just not good anymore. The oil prices are too high. And imagine a country that produces oil. We produce the oil, and we pay more money for oil than a country that's importing the oil.
Right. So the controversy around this, which is not to a high degree by the way, it was mostly on Twitter, if I'm correct, was why would David go ahead and say this in an international environment? There was this view that it could have said it in a better branded manner or say nothing at all. There was this video, I'm not be sure, but trust me, I did watch the video. Okay, there were like three people, maybe some kind of like news or whatever, but there were just like three people discussing, and there was this woman who was with the notion that any such from somewhat an ambassador of a nation presents such nation in a negative image, thereby placing such nation at a disadvantage when it comes to the pursuit of its economic affairs in the international environment. But you and I know that even before David, during while David was speaking, then even after his speech, Nigeria stands no chance whatsoever appealing to foreign investors. But yeah, it wasn't like a lot of controversy, but there were some people who were like, yo, sure, you should not have done that. And there was this some people that were like, y'all forget when the former president 6 years ago had went and during an international discourse had called Nigeria youth lazy. It was some kind of outrage back then, because why a lot of Nigerians felt really insulted. I mean, Nigerians are probably the most hardworking citizens in the world, right? Some others, however, were in support of his statement, saying first his statement was taken out of context, also that his statement wasn't particularly meant as a blanket for all Nigerian youth, that it was specifically referring to a minority of individuals who exhibit complacency due to the systemic reliance on the country's overall institutional arrangement. And these, which I kind of like agree with, though they are all, most of them are kind of, rooted in the systemic failure. But you see, it is however very important to not rule out that dependency mindset really do exist among some individuals expecting wealth or resources without significant efforts. And you see, while the former president was explaining, he was somewhat doted on the population, trying to make it known that Nigeria has its highest population being youth, an advantage specifically in the economic outlook. And maybe its frustration was that despite the 60% of Nigeria population being under the age of 25, which on the outside is a potential for some strong workforce, Nigeria still was nowhere near prosperous. And he probably believed it was because some of the said youths are not driven but rather dependent, a discourse to be left open as well. You see, while you may argue that structural, economic, and social factors account for the incredible rate of youth employment in Nigeria, it is a formal truth that majority of youth themselves strive more towards informal ways of livelihood rather than towards acquiring skills, getting the effective education, and all that could stand a chance in the systemic work field. Insane number of Nigerian youths, you would not imagine, even as young as 15, 16, 17, leans towards the internet-based financial crime, that is to say, the youths who are the center of concern even before reaching the stage to seek for the availability of opportunities in the larger society, had themselves diverted their time, energy, skills, focus to something entirely different. So now when you examine it, it will not be a total reality to be excluded that while structural, institutional, and political inefficiency is contributing to the nation's stagnancy, especially in the economic realm, youth indifferences and unwillingness to show preference for formal jobs and career paths is also an impediment on the economic prosperity of Nigeria as a nation, as many rather talented youths who could contribute positively to the technology or business sectors invest their time and energy in other dubious activities instead. And on the outside, while you may argue youth unemployment and economic disarrangement in Nigeria is the root cause leading youth towards the internet-based financial crime part, it stays on the table that peer pressure as well as influence, poverty, which sometimes has no direct connection to the political or economic situation of a country, lack of skills or education. I mean, even youths with no proper education, neither productive skills, have got to get by. And these, they may be left with no other choice on how to go about other than seek shortcuts to financial affordability. Also, pop culture, including music, somewhat glorifying the massive flow of finance for internet-based financial crime committers. It is high time for me to start using an acronyms. Excuse me. Anyways, they're glorifying the massive flow of income for these people, create some kind of celebration and some sense of admiration for their wealth and flashy lifestyle. This, which is a somewhat direct influence on the youth, let's say, are also very, very remote factors contributing to the internet-based financial crime culture in Nigeria. Please, an acronym. Anyways, when you examine it, okay, the effect of the internet-based financial crime culture on the economy is linear, and here is how. Without considering the percentage of youths who are potential advantage to national economic development, the internet-based financial crime culture creates an unquestionable and somewhat massive social equality. It is a culture that in fact presents wealth as something that can be acquired without toiling or so much labor, this which may lead to frustration among citizens who chose jobs and career as a means of income here, where it is undeniable that what they get is hardly sufficient to get by, to talk of transforming into worth for them. Let me show you a tweet. You see, while you may argue that it is not an all blame on the internet-based financial crime committers, since inflation and all sorts are often more structural and institutional, you may, however, not be able to fully disregard the fact that in reality, necessities like housing, clothing, and transportation are not in fact extraneously high, only due to the fact that stakeholders in these sectors, as a matter of understanding and coming to terms with the existence of a quick and somewhat labelless means of getting money among contemporary youths, almost as if sees it as a necessity to get their own share of the bread, since they probably feel it is unfair that they have had to toil or are toiling to get what they are offering, a gesture that go on to have a massive impact on the jobbers and career people, making them see they're almost not adequately sufficient means of income as not the correct way in navigating the world financially, furtherly discouraging investments in skills acquisition, institutional services, and even entrepreneurship. Nigerian youth great involvement in IBFC, finally, okay, it's also one of the key elements that fuels systemic corruption. I'm talking in regard to the Nigerian Police Force, the Economic Financial Crime Commission, and all these institutions that deploy the role of curbing the culture. It is also one factor to not be ruled out discouraging foreign partnership with Nigeria, and one significantly diverting youth from productive pursuits. But then, despite the supposed youth massive diversion towards uninstitutional part as a means of employment, Nigeria labor workforce continues to grow in size. Imagine sectors like ICT, fintech, and creative industries are playing a part. These are areas dominated with youth. You see, while I was discussing the former president doting on the population as if suggesting it should have an inclination towards economic buoyancy, it is in fact that the population of any country is a key factor influencing both the economic and social dimension of a country. And as it is and it was even as of 6 years ago, Nigeria stands an advantage with its population size, distribution, and demographic. It is even set on the track to become the world third most populous country by 2050. Because you see, birth rate over here is quite advantageous, 5.2 higher than most Western and Eastern countries. If population then is a key factor in economic development, and Nigeria has the highest youthful population, this which is a potential for even wider percentage of people in their reproductive years. Is the economic disarrangement still something considered an inadequacy on the part of the youths? To consider that in comparison to the 90s, Nigeria labor workforce had increased tremendously from as little as 30 million to approximately 75.72 million, a phenomenon made possible by Nigeria's growing population and massive youth involvement in the labor workforce. Also, why countries like South Korea, for example, despite its somewhat flexible and buoyant economy, unlike Nigeria, which economy is a great constraint on the citizens, are experiencing declination in population. Hypothetically, even if Nigeria remains as it is, economically stagnant, high poverty rates, unemployment, and all sorts of abnormalities, its population is unlikely to suffer a drastic decline, even as numbers of youths, in contrast to the cultural norm that procreation is not a topic or something of disputation, are, declaring certain reluctancy and some of them not so much enthusiasm towards procreation, which for most of them is as a result of their financial situation. Majority others, however, perceives procreation still as a necessary cause and are pushing for it no matter the state of their finance in the long run. So of course, youth, greater percentage of them are driven, pragmatic, diligent, resilient. I'm certain about this because I know this, okay? They are willing. The remaining percentage that will rather they take advantage of other people than engage in physical labor activities are a minority. Maybe I'm wrong, but when provisions are made available to create possible employment, encourage workforce, also to improve the lives of citizens, okay, I feel like it would be more easier to be precise. Right, and Zubi, probably you don't know him, but he is a British rapper from Nigeria and he does music necessarily. But I've seen that on his socials, I mean, like Instagram, YouTube, and the X app, I've seen that he's quite very interested in diving into all these social events and phenomenon and whatever. So here is a tweet from him where he's asserting that Nigeria is gonna be this one, by 2050 we're going to be great and everything. And while I may not be able to show you like all the responses in support and in opposition and people generally expressing their own opinion, right, I will just bring everything together with my own personal opinion that while Nigeria's size is perceived as a potential for its economic breakthrough both internally and externally, it is not to be undermined that this very factor equally poses Nigeria at the risk of greater instability in the long run. A population like ours in a country with no favorable workforce, education, healthcare, and all that is necessary is set for unimaginable calamity. trust me, if our resources or whatever gets the job done is never going to be sufficient to fix all these abnormalities we are facing as a nation, Nigeria should probably not push forward with the status quo for its population. I mean, that seems like the most reasonable thing to do, right? Maybe push for moderate, since I'm probably going to sound crazy to say reduce. So, balance is it? And it is quite impressive to see the growing numbers of youth themselves who are independently, despite the cultural expectation, pushing procreation onto financial stability. But then people in rural sectors, isn't there where there is adequate access to education and some form of enlightenment that there can be such epiphany? Allow me to be poetic. But and I know that though traditional, and the religious influence may be playing a part, but how it is probably more deep rooted in the dilemma of the leaders deciding between what it owes to them in form of loss and how advantageous it can be to Nigeria as a nation when efforts are made towards population control. But you see, as a result of some short-term political gain, and especially this geopolitical title, Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa and whatnot, we are probably stuck in this dilemma. And everybody's just existing. So yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for watching my video. My name is Olawa. You like my kiss necklace? Thank you for watching, and see ya. Please subscribe to my channel. Bye.